ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So welcome all of you all to the third day of the Live Not Exist seminars. So today we'll be discussing this topic, which is you rise when your pride falls. So this topic is in continuation with what we discussed for the last 2 days. Just summarizing what we discussed for the last 2 days, essentially we discussed the travel of Vishwamitra with Ram and Lakshman from Ayodhya till Siddhashram, and we saw how with the help of Ram and Lakshman Vishwamitra was able to complete the fire sacrifice, the yajna. So once the yajna is completed, Vishwamitra Muni the next day morning he vacates Siddhashram. He and all his disciples practically leave Siddhashram forever. And there is a very interesting description of what happens when they leave Siddhashram. When they leave Siddhashram, all the animals and all the birds in that forest, they all start walking along with Vishwamitra Muni and his disciples. And Vishwamitra Muni turns back, realizing what is happening. He tells them, all of you all stay back here, we're leaving, and we will continue to be together in our hearts. And then all the animals and all the birds, they give a tearful farewell to Vishwamitra and his sages, and the entourage continues. In fact, the previous evening, some of the sages, they have been discussing what is going to happen the next day. And all of them, they discuss about visiting the kingdom of Mithila, where there is a powerful bow which belongs to Lord Shiva kept on display, and there is a yajna going on. So all the sages were excited about going and attending this, and more than anything else they wanted Ram to be a part of them. Vishwamitra, his journey actually ends with the marriage of Sita and Ram, and then from that point on Vishwamitra goes to the north, to the Himalayas, and he never comes back into the Ramayana again. But before that, the sages are trying to convince Ram to come into the yajna because they want to facilitate the marriage of Sita and Ram. And Vishwamitra, one of the reasons he actually brings Sita and Ram all the way is for this purpose. So they do not tell Ram what is the agenda. They only talk about the bow. They only talk about the bow sacrifice. They don't talk about what happens to the person who manages to lift the bow. They don't talk about the marriage, they don't talk about the Swayamvar, nothing. So Ram is excited, Lakshman is excited to see the bow. Kshatriya children, naturally they'll be, today's children, if you talk to them about Sachin Tendulkar's cricket bat, they'll be excited. They'll go anywhere in the world to see Sachin Tendulkar's cricket bat. That's how it was, Lord Shiva's bow for Ram and Lakshman. So, they leave Siddhashram and they reach Mithila. This is where what we're going to discuss today begins. They are in Mithila, in the kingdom of Janak, in the court of Janak, and in front of Janak and his minister, many of his ministers, and a sage whose name is Satananda Rishi. I am not going into certain details which happened between leaving Siddhashram and reaching Mithila. One of the very important details is the deliverance of Ahilya from the stone, Gautam Rishi's wife. I am not discussing that. But after having done all that, Ram and Lakshman reach Mithila. And then Vishwamitra is introducing Ram and Lakshman to Janak, to Satananda Rishi, to all the ministers there. Naturally, trying to introduce Ram and Lakshman, Vishwamitra starts talking about who they are. He tells Janak, that these two boys, they are not ordinary boys. They are the sons of Dasharath, princes of Ayodhya, and they are the most powerful warriors the world has ever seen. And then he substantiates by saying that they are just 12 years old, and what kind of powerful warriors the world has ever seen. He talks about how Ram has single-handedly killed Tataka. Satananda Rishi is not really impressed. Killing Tataka, the way he was looking at Vishwamitra, it seemed that anybody could do it. And Vishwamitra said they killed Marich and Subahu. Again, Satananda Rishi was not really impressed. And then Vishwamitra said they got so many mantras, Bala, Ati Bala mantras, they got so many weapons and missiles and chakras and so many things. Again, Satananda Rishi was not really impressed. And then Vishwamitra said one thing. He said, Ram has delivered Ahilya. From a stone, he has brought her back into life. As soon as Vishwamitra said that, Satananda Rishi got up. He said, did he actually deliver Ahilya? Vishwamitra said, yeah. Now you might wonder, why is Satananda Rishi excited about this one thing and not really bothered about all the other things which happened, which were really heroic? This is not really heroic, right? The reason is because Satananda Rishi is the son of Gautama and Ahilya. His mother has been a stone for so many years now, and he was helpless. Gautama Rishi, his own father, he never did anything, and nobody seemed to be able to do anything. Can you imagine the situation of a son whose mother is a stone and he is just helpless looking at her all the time? And then when he hears that Ram has delivered her, Satananda Rishi becomes excited. And then he realizes that Ram is really glorious. Glory for different people is different things. For some people, somebody is glorious if he can fight a war, if he can win battles. For somebody else, he is glorious if he can finalize a business deal. For another person, somebody is glorious if he can get 92% marks in exams. So different people understand glory from different perspectives. But for Satananda Rishi, the person is glorious if he can deliver a person who is considered to be having performed a great sin, and such a person reinstituting back to his or her original situation of sinlessness, that is really glorious according to Satananda Rishi. So a sage really understands that what is real glory? Real glory is to help somebody reform, to help somebody transform in his heart and restore back to one's pure constitutional situation. That really impressed Satananda Rishi. So Satananda Rishi, he is so happy hearing Ram and Lakshman's glory. Now he feels the person who got Ram and Lakshman to him, who is that? Vishwamitra. The person who actually was instrumental in his mother being delivered was Vishwamitra. So Satananda Rishi felt, the one thing I can do to reciprocate with Vishwamitra's kindness on me, to reciprocate with the way Ram and Lakshman have actually really uplifted my consciousness after so many years, the one thing I can do is, I want to reveal to them who really Vishwamitra is. So far, in all these days of travel with Vishwamitra, Vishwamitra has never spoken about himself. He has told so many stories to Ram and Lakshman. Stories about rivers, stories about forests, stories about people, stories about sages, stories about kings. But not even once, except for that one time when he said, my sister is Kaushiki. That was the only time Vishwamitra actually spoke about himself. Till now, Vishwamitra has never spoken about himself. And as soon as Ram and Lakshman heard the fact that Satananda Rishi is going to tell them the story of Vishwamitra Muni, their own teacher, they were really happy, they were really excited. Learning and understanding stories about one's guru, one's spiritual teacher is always something pleasurable for the disciple. So Satananda Rishi, he began to speak. The lesson that we can learn from Vishwamitra's attitude is that self-praise leads to dilution of one's achievement. Great souls allow their actions to speak about themselves. They don't speak about themselves. Today's world, speaking about oneself is something that people love. People want to speak so much about themselves, right? Stuti or praise is in Sanskrit language, it's eulogized in a certain interesting way. It is explained that stuti is praise, it's actually a feminine word. So the Shastras, the Niti actually explains that Stuti Kanya is always a maiden, never gets married to anybody. So the reason she is always a maiden, she never gets married to anybody, is because whoever wants to marry her, she runs away from such a person. And whoever she wants to marry, that person runs away from her. So naturally, she's going to remain, unmarried. So the fact is that glorification of oneself is like nectar. All our senses want satisfaction. The eyes are looking for something beautiful for satisfaction. The nose is wanting to smell something nice for satisfaction. The tongue wants something. The ears, the only thing that really satisfies them, seems to fill them up, is nectar about one's own glories, right? Satananda Rishi, he reveals the glory of Vishwamitra to the two boys. This is something really interesting, because these are two equals, Vishwamitra Muni and Satananda Rishi. They're equals. And in front of them, both of them, their disciples are there. Satananda Rishi's disciple is Janak Maharaj and all the ministers, and Vishwamitra's disciple is Ram and Lakshman. Now can you imagine two great teachers, two great gurus, two great spiritual leaders, they're talking about each other, they're talking to each other, and in front of the disciples. Generally, the mood is always that the human ego always wants to prove oneself superior than the other. Especially the higher you grow, the more you want to prove that you're better than the others. So in typical situations like this, where we see politicians coming together and discussing about themselves, or we even see pseudo-spiritualists coming together and talking about themselves, there is always pointing out defects of the other person and pointing out the good of oneself. Here is a mature discussion between two people, two great leaders, great spiritual teachers, discussing about one another in front of their disciples. So what we're going to see today, the whole day, is Satananda Rishi's narration of Vishwamitra's life in front of Vishwamitra's disciples. So here is how he is trying to maintain a balance. So simultaneously, Satananda Rishi has to tell facts, but at the same time, he cannot tell facts in a way that will displease Vishwamitra Muni, because sometimes facts can be told in really various ways. You will find Vishwamitra's life story, it can be really put up in a very scandalous way, if Satyananda Rishi wanted to do it. And it can be, at the end of the whole discussion with Vishwamitra, Ram and Lakshman could have completely lost respect for Vishwamitra. They would have said, come on, we are walking with such a person so many days. Just leave him, completely forget him. No, Satyananda Rishi doesn't do that. He tells the story of Vishwamitra as it is. It's not that he is hiding facts. It's not that he is not telling the ones where Vishwamitra did mistakes and only telling those facts where Vishwamitra did good things. No. He tells every fact as it is. But again, with such a sensitivity and such a level of respect, that after listening to the whole story, Ram and Lakshman's respect and appreciation for their teacher just increases unlimitedly. This requires maturity. This requires non-envious nature. This requires a clean heart. Glorifying somebody, appreciating another person without a hidden agenda. So, Satyananda Rishi begins a narration by talking about the life of Vishwamitra, the dynasty of Vishwamitra, the dynasty in which Vishwamitra was born. Satyananda Rishi says that Vishwamitra, his name originally was Kaushika. He was a descendant of the moon god, Chandravansh. And the son of the moon god was a personality named Pururava. Pururava, his great grandson, his name was Janu. And Janu's great grandson, his name was Kusha. Kusha's son, his name was Kushanaba. We discussed their story yesterday. And Kushanaba's son was Gadi. And Gadi's son was Vishwamitra or Kaushika. So after Gadi, Kaushika became the king of that land. And powerful king. One day he went out on a hunting expedition. Somehow many of the exciting stories in the scriptures happen during hunting expeditions only. Nothing happens sitting in the palace. Experiential learning, knowledge can be gained only when you leave your house. Sitting in a house on Google, you can't gain everything. You may gain information, but actual tangible, knowledge that can transform your heart comes when you go out. So, Kaushik, he went out on a hunting expedition and he was thirsty, hungry. And somehow he came across a hermitage. This was a very small, tiny hermitage. So, Kaushik told all his soldiers, his guards, the ministers, and all of them to stand somewhere far away. And he said, I'll go and pay respects to the spiritual teacher in that ashram and I'll come back. So he went there, and though there were less people, the reason there were less people in that hermitage is because the sage in that particular hermitage, he always resisted fame. He always would run away as soon as too many disciples would accumulate. So, after some time, Vashishta, the sage who owned that hermitage, he saw this king come, Kaushik. So he told the king that, please welcome to my ashram. Would you like to eat something? Would you like to drink something? The king said, no, I just came to pay respects to you and I am going. The sage said, my dear king, you can't go. You have to come and eat something. We would like to serve you. The sage, the ashram was looking so dilapidated, so small. The king was feeling embarrassed. What will I go and eat there? But anyway, he didn't want to dissatisfy him, so he said, fine. But then he said, I'll come alone. My entire army and its entourage and all the elephants and all can remain outside. The sage said, no, get everyone. This king got bewildered. What do you mean by everyone? If everyone walks in, your hermitage will collapse. He said, no, just get everyone, I tell you. The king said, I can get everyone, but what will you feed them? He said, don't worry, we will take care. And then the king, he didn't want to dishonor him. He knew the sages could get angry and violent at times. So he allowed everyone to come in. And soon, The entire hermitage was filled with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. The king was a powerful person. I mean, he had like millions of people practically. Sage told everyone, sit in lines. Everybody sat in lines and they were waiting. The king didn't expect much. Probably he thought some chana kurmara will come, What else can sages give? Suddenly, the sage, whose name was Vashishta, he called a cow, his cow, one cow, whose name was Shabala. And he told cow, please come. The cow walked in. And then the king, the sage, Vashishta, he told the cow, please serve all of them the most opulent dishes. And instantly, in front of everyone, there's a plate full of the most amazing dishes they have ever seen in their lives. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. But it was there. So they started eating, They started eating more and more and more because they have never tasted anything like this in their lives. And after a long time, the king and his people, they were all completely filled to their necks. They got up and they were leaving. So after everyone went away, Vishwamitra, the sage, Kaushik, the king, Kaushika, he went to Vashishta privately. And he said, thank you very much for the amazing meal. So he said, how did this happen? Vashishta told Vishwamitra, Kaushika, the king, that this cow, her name is Shabala, this cow is a Kamadhenu cow, a wish-fulfilling cow. And this cow has been personally given to me by Lord Vishnu. Seeing my desire to please him, desire to serve him, so many yajnas that I do, just to help me fulfill my needs because I keep traveling everywhere. So Vishnu gave me this cow. And this cow has come up from the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the milk ocean. So this is a very, very special cow. So the king, he asked Vashishta that, can you give me this cow? I'll give you anything in return. So he said, give me this one cow, I'll give you 1 lakh cows in return. The sage, he said, I'm sorry, Shabala is my mother and I don't barter my mother. So now the king started thinking from a business perspective. If somebody says no to one deal, what it means? It means that he is not satisfied with the amount that is mentioned. So he said, let me increase the amount. Let me give an offer which is irresistible. That's how business deals are closed, right? So the king said, in return for this one cow, I'll give you 14,000 elephants, 800 golden chariots, 11,000 horses, and 10 million cows. The king said, now what? Vashishta said the same thing. He said, no, the cow is my mother. I don't sell my mother. Vashishta treated the cow as a person with the highest amount of respect. Vishwamitra, the king, he treated the cow as a commodity. When people are treated as commodities, they are given price tags. So, in this world, if you study the way in which industrialization grew, consumerism grew, in the beginning, in order to market products, the companies were creating various advertisements and various type of techniques just to push the products into the market, just to make people consumers. For example, to sell television. So many channels were created, so many facilities were created, and now, after one person buys a television, now what? You create so many channels that simultaneously every person in the house wants to watch a different channel. And you make channels very unique for particular, age group, particular mindsets. Naturally, everybody at the same time wanted to watch their own channel. So naturally the result is that you buy more televisions. One television and then two televisions and then four televisions. Every room on television, right? And every person sitting in front of television in their own rooms. This is called consumerism. Consumerism goes to another level where you're not satisfied with the one that you have. The television that I have is fat, takes too much space. Let me get a thinner one. So every year you change the model. Television, mobile phones, cars, everything. You keep changing and changing and changing. So slowly, what it really leads to is what is known as hedonism. It starts with consumerism and then it leads to what is known as hedonism. What is hedonism? Hedonism means doing exactly the same thing that you do with things with people. So the concept became that we use people and love things. So the concept of use and throw, which originates with things, shifted to people. I use something, I don't like it, I throw it and get something else. So the concept of use and throw, it shifts from things to people, and then what happens is, I get somebody in my life, I don't like that person, I can't tolerate that person, throw him out, throw her out, get somebody else. If that doesn't work, throw that person out, get somebody else. If that doesn't work, throw that person out, get somebody else. One of the things that happens with when you are too much used to controlling is that you desire to control people also. Mobile phones, you can change the color of the screen, you can change the screensaver, you can change the ringtone, you can change everything in the phone or on a computer. But when the same thing comes to changing people, very difficult. Button dabne se change hota nahi hai. I press 10 buttons, that fellow doesn't change only in front of me. So I get fed up. So this person is not changing. I want a person who will change according to my desire. So this experimentation with things slowly converts into experimentation with people. Old age homes. What is it? It's exactly that. In Germany, somebody was sharing this with us. There are so many old age homes. Some of the richest people at the end, towards the fag end of their lives, they go and get themselves admitted in an old age home. You know why? Very simple reason. Because they don't have anybody at home. It's not that they don't have money. They don't have anybody at home who can talk to them, who can take care of them. So they get admitted into old age homes. And they have categories of old age homes. 1-star, 2-star, 5-star old age homes, 5-star old age homes means you have your own house in an old age home. And then the bathrooms, you can take a wheelchair into the bathroom directly, into the shower directly. And in these old age homes, there are nurses who come and meet these old people. And every nurse is allowed to meet these old people only for 3 minutes a day. Because so much demand, less supply. So these old people, some of them have been the most influential people in the country. But now they are helpless. So you know what they have to do? They have to beg the nurse to stay with them for 3 more minutes. Practically beg. They're ready to give any amount of money for 3 minutes of time. Can you imagine what situation is this? One man, he was taking his old father, to drop him in the old age home. And on the way, the father, he said, "Can I get some water to drink?" The son stopped the car. He said, "This is the last time I'm going to give something to my father. So let me do something nice." So he put the father on a bench, park bench, and he went to get juice instead of water. So he went and got juice and gave it to his father. The father was crying. So son said, "Don't worry, I'll keep coming to meet you. I'm not leaving you." The father said, "That's not the reason I'm crying. The reason I'm crying is because when I dropped my father to the old age home, this was the exact bench on which I made him sit and gave him juice." The son, he took him back to his home. Vishwamitra was angry now. The king was angry now. It's almost like a change of personality. So far, the king has been very, very regal, very, very royal, very, very elegant, very compassionate towards his subject. Vashishta is staying in his kingdom. So he's very compassionate. Now, suddenly, when Vashishta refused to listen to him, he completely changed his personality. He told Vashishta that you have to give me that cow. Vashishta said, why? He said, I am the king of your country. The king has rights over everything in his country. Therefore, this cow is staying in my kingdom, so this cow belongs to me. Vashishta smiled. That made the king more angry. He said, Vashishta told the king that, my dear sir, the cow is not in your kingdom. Vishwamitra said, come on, he is here. So Vashishta said, look down. And that's when Vishwamitra saw that the cow was not standing on the ground. It was floating 1 inch above the ground. Special cow, Kamadhenu cow. So Vishwamitra, now he realized that I can't argue with Vashishta with words. Because the strength of a sage is words. And my strength is power. So he caught the cow and started pulling her. The lesson that we learn is that a facade falls with the first sight of temptation. So as long as Vashishta was not really poking him, not really hurting him, not really affecting him in any way, Vishwamitra was a very kind, compassionate king, treating Vashishta as an obedient subject. Vishwamitra thought, this sage, he has nothing, so I have nothing to lose or gain from him. So as long as he thought that Vashishta had nothing to offer him, Vishwamitra was treating Vashishta with a lot of respect. The moment Vishwamitra realized that Vashishta had more than him, that's when he turned into a coercive person. That's when he started grabbing everything. In life, facades, people change when situations change around them. You find this story in our history books, you find the story of Rani Padmini, the wife of Ratan Singh. She was considered to be the most beautiful woman at that point of time. And while there was one man whose name was Alauddin Khilji. He wanted to, see her beauty. So they were not ready to, and Rani Padmini was just not ready to, come in front of him. So somehow or the other he said, I don't want anything, just one time I want to see her. So he was acting in a very nice way. And then the one time he saw her, after that he became mad. He said, now I want her. And there was a huge war just because this person changed with temptation. The cow represents prosperity. Shabala, the cow, represents prosperity. Prosperity is a reward for somebody who deserves prosperity. So prosperity is a reward for the deserving, those who have done past good deeds. You cannot drag prosperity into your life, nor can you drag prosperity out of somebody else's life. Today, what is the world about? Dragging prosperity into your life and dragging prosperity out of somebody else's life. Vishwamitra started this affair. Our ambitions are fine, but our ambition should not affect others negatively. The moment our ambitions start affecting others negatively, that ambition turns into greed. What is Ramayan? The entire story of the Ramayan is about Ravan, who thought that he can drag prosperity into his life. Sita represents Lakshmi Devi, represents prosperity. So he was thinking that I can drag prosperity into my life by kidnapping Sita. Jatayu, when Ravan was kidnapping Sita, Jatayu told him, Sita is Lakshmi, but for you, she is not Lakshmi. Jatayu gave an example. He said, Rabdi is tasty. But Rabdi is tasty if you can digest it. Somebody who has low digestion power, a small baby, Rabdi may be tasty, but it is deadly. So Jatayu told Ravan that she is like Rabdi for you. You are a sick man with indigestion. Don't take her. You cannot handle her. So even after giving such kind of examples, Ravan couldn't understand. I'm going to show you a very small video. It's a very interesting video about the concept of prosperity. How when you try to grab prosperity into your life and you don't deserve it, you may end up in a bad situation. Vishwamitra was trying to grab prosperity into his life. But when you try to grab prosperity into your life, it's not that just by having the power to grab, prosperity will come. Or even if it comes, there is no guarantee it will remain. Vashishta, he was helpless. He saw that his cow was being dragged away, but he had no power to stop Vishwamitra from taking it. So Vashishta, he was helpless standing there, but the cow, Shabala, she turned to him and she saw that he is doing nothing. Her master, who is supposed to protect her, is doing nothing. She broke loose from Vishwamitra and ran to where Vashishta was. And she asked him, "Did I do something wrong? What was my mistake that you are not protecting me? Did I do something wrong?" Vashishta, he told her that you did nothing wrong, but I am helpless. Vishwamitra was a king, and the king is a representative of God. And more than that, the king is a guest to my house. So how can just now I treated him so nicely as a guest, and suddenly how can I become inimical towards him? So Vashishta said, I am helpless. Shabala, she got angry at Vashishta. And she said, if you can't help me, can I help myself? So Vashishta said, of course, you can help yourself. Shabala now turned around and she faced Vishwamitra, this king. And Vishwamitra was shocked. because she started screaming as loudly as possible. So seeing the now change in the attitude of this cow is supposed to be a simple, humble, peaceful creature. And suddenly this cow has become so powerful and so daring. So Vishwamitra gets scared. Exploitative leaders harass genuine followers. What to do if exploitative leaders harass genuine followers? If you are strong like Shabala, stand up and fight. If you are weak like Vashishta, empower somebody else to do it. So when the leader is good, one should follow. And when the leader is bad, one should defend oneself. One time there was a very rich man. This man was, he was rich, and the fact that he was rich is known by his symptoms, So one day he happened to be driving across a street, and he saw that there were two people on the roadside. They were eating grass. So this man stopped the vehicle. He realized that they are in utter poverty. Can you imagine human beings eating grass because of no option? So he got down and he asked them, "Why are you eating grass?" They said, "We have no option, we have no food to eat." So he said, "Don't worry, I will help you." He said, "Sit in my car." So they sat in his car. They thought, he's going to feed them, he's going to give them a good job. He took him to his house and he told them, "Get down." They got down and he showed his garden. He said, "Here there's a lot of grass, you can eat this one." So Vishwamitra, at this point of time, he was shocked that the cow is ready to retaliate. And then the cow, when it screamed once, suddenly hundreds of soldiers started coming out from the body of the cow. They were called Pahalavas. And soon Vishwamitra, he told his army to attack the soldiers, and all the soldiers of the cow were dead. And then the cow, she screamed again, and this time millions of soldiers came out. Dravidas, Pahalavas, Savaras, Kanchis, from all different parts of the body of the cow, the soldiers started coming out. And soon the entire army of Vishwamitra was wiped out. Only Vishwamitra and his 100 sons were alive. The sons of Vishwamitra realized that the problem is not, Shabala, the problem is Vashishta. So they ran to Vashishta to kill him. And Vashishta, he didn't do much. Omkar is a mantra which is considered to be a very divine mantra. But the same Omkar, when it is chanted at a very high pitch, it is called as Hunkar. So Vashishta chanted the Hunkar mantra. And just by the chanting of the Hunkar mantra of Vashishta, all the 100 sons of Vishwamitra was burned to death. Now Vishwamitra was totally helpless, alone, standing in front of Vashishta and the cow. So Vishwamitra now didn't know what to do. The feelings of Vishwamitra are conveyed with 4 analogies. Each analogy better than the other. What a person who is helpless, how does he feel? The first analogy is, Vishwamitra was like an ocean without waves. कैसा लगेगा? समुद्र लहरों के बिना. Vishwamitra was like a serpent, a snake without fangs. क्या होगा? बच्चे भी उसको मार के चले जाएंगे. कुछ नहीं कर सकता है. Vishwamitra was like a bird without wings. What can a bird do without wings? And Vishwamitra was like a sun which is eclipsed, which is having no sparkle. Vishwamitra was totally helpless. Situations of helplessness create the most fertile environment where plant of realization can grow. Most people who come to the Hare Krishna movement, they come or they actually take it very seriously when they go through one such phase of helplessness in their life. When everything is fine and perfect, we feel, why do we need Hare Krishna? भक्ति की क्या जरूरत है? सब कुछ तो ठीक चल रहा है. एक बार एक ऐसा वातावरण हमारे जीवन में आएगा कि हम कुछ कर ही नहीं पाएंगे. हमारी बुद्धि, हमारी शक्ति, हमारा धन, सब कुछ, everything is just useless to help you come out of that situation. That's when you think of going to something higher. So situations of helplessness create the most fertile environment where the plant of realization can grow. If we deposit seeds of good guidance and prayer to God, then flowers of humility and maturity will grow. But instead of planting seeds of good guidance and prayer to God, if we deposit seeds of revenge, then the plant that grows, it will be filled with thorns of arrogance and discontent. The choice is ours. Gajendra, the elephant, when he went through a phase of helplessness in his life, he realized that my family cannot save me, my own strength cannot save me, my being the king cannot save me, all my friends and relatives cannot save me, no one can save me except God. And then he picked up one flower and he offered to the Lord. He was helplessly chanting out the holy names. And that's when Krishna came and saved him. Apollo 11, I think it was Apollo 7, when it was released and it was in the orbit, at some point of time there were massive failures in the satellite. And at that point of time, in the earth stations, practically everywhere, the president of the country, they declared that officially they announced that everybody should go to the churches and temples and pray. So generally, when you go through situations of helplessness, that is when you realize how weak and insignificant a human being is. Vishwamitra, he returned to his kingdom. His ego was battered badly. Now, when he came back, the only word in his dictionary was badla. English dictionary, revenge. So, Vishwamitra, so basically all of us in our lives, we go through different phases, different points where decisions have to be made. And our mind becomes practically like a war field. Here in the case of Vishwamitra, his mind, practically the war that he fought with that one small cow, it was going on constantly. His mind was so agitated. When you are eating, can you eat while running? Can you drink while running? Very difficult. Very difficult. Even if you do it, you will not be happy. You will not feel that you have really eaten or drunk, right? You need to be peaceful, sitting in one place, and that's when you can relish it. Decision making with a disturbed mind is like eating while running. Just imagine the most important decision of your life you're taking when your mind is running at full speed. How can you take a stable decision? So, Vishwamitra, at this point of time, he realized that injustice has been done to him. So, when a person feels injustice has been done to him, what he wants, the only thing he really wants is justice. So, there is a small gap between what we call as justice and what is actually revenge. Vishwamitra wanted justice, but what he was actually seeking was revenge. And that small distance between justice and revenge is what is called as dharma. Religiosity, dharma, is actually so sensitive that one has to be very careful whether you really want justice or you want revenge. So Vishwamitra, he told his sons, he had few more sons left. Now you don't ask me exactly how many sons he had and all, I don't know. You'll find sons of Vishwamitra keep coming again and again later also. So he had some sons left, I assume, So Vishwamitra, he handed over the kingdom to one of his sons. And he said, I'm going. I may not come back. Just imagine. He left everything and went to the forest. One event in Vishwamitra's life, he focused on that one event. And that one event transformed every aspect of his life. He completely gave up his kingdom. He went to the forest and he started meditating for many, many years, performing tapasya to please Lord Shiva. Many people go through such phases where one person insults them once. तू कुत्ता है, पब्लिक में बोल दिया तो बस. Till I make this person a dog, I'll not keep quiet. Your whole energy, your whole focus, your whole attention just goes on spoiling that person's life. In the process, you spoil your own life. In the process, you spoil the lives of everyone who loves you. So Vishwamitra, he handed over his kingdom to his son, went to the forest, started performing tapasya to please Lord Shiva. Finally, after so many years of tapasya, Lord Shiva appeared in front of him. And he asked him, what do you want? Vishwamitra said, missiles. I want unlimited missiles. Probably now he would have said nuclear missiles, So Lord Shiva gave him all the missiles that he wanted. So he was fully equipped now to handle, practically he could fight a war alone. He walked the route from where he was meditating to Vasishta's ashram. That route, today he walked once. But in his mind, mentally, he has been walking that route hundreds of times. And then he finally reached where Vasishta's ashram was. An incident of the past, it's not what really agitates your mind. It is how much attention you give to the memory of that incident. That agitates your mind. If you don't give any attention to that incident, that remains history. Forgotten history. But if you give so much attention to that one incident in your life, that incident becomes the epitome of your life. That becomes the center of your life. That becomes the purpose of your life. And many times, when we go through such incidents in our life, they are not the most important incidents at all. They are somewhere passing incidents. If we didn't care for them, if we didn't bother about them, they would have just gone. But we get down in that station. And we not just get down in that station, we make a house in that station. Not just a house, we make a bungalow in that station. Ready to live there forever. Forgetting that there are so many other things that we can do in life. Vishwamitra, this famous actress, one time she saw her face in the mirror. She was the most beautiful actress of her times. She saw one wrinkle on her face. When she saw that one wrinkle on her face, she couldn't handle it. She said, this one wrinkle means I'm getting old. I'm going to become ugly. And she kept thinking about that one wrinkle for the rest of her life. She never ever made a public appearance again. Started drinking, started taking drugs, absolutely lost it. She became uglier and uglier, and she became completely mad, to the extent at some point in her life she committed suicide. One wrinkle. So Vishwamitra, now he reached the house of Vasishta, the ashram of Vasishta, with all his missiles. As soon as he reached the ashram of Vasishta, he threw one missile. Which missile? Brahmastra, straight. Beach wala kuch nahi, सीधा ब्रह्मास्त्र फेंक दिया. The entire ashram of Vasishta was burnt to ashes. All the ashram inmates, they started running around here and there, helpless. Vasishta realized something terrible has happened. He came out and he saw that Vishwamitra was standing there. Vishwamitra was laughing. Vasishta asked him that why did you misuse your powers? Why did you throw the Brahmastra on helpless people? Vishwamitra, he said, I challenge you now. Outdo me. You do whatever you want, get your cow, get whoever you want, and try to outdo me. Vasishta, he stood over there. He didn't get his cow. He just stood there and he said, do whatever you want. He had a small stick in his hand, which is called the Brahmadanda. That's all. So Vishwamitra started throwing all kinds of missiles, all kinds of weapons, all kinds of arrows on Vasishta. Vasishta just took up his stick and kept it in the air. Every missile, every arrow, every weapon that Vishwamitra was throwing, that small stick was consuming it. And it just disappeared. Absolutely disappeared. Vishwamitra exhausted every missile that Lord Shiva gave him. Every missile gone into that stick of Vasishta. And then Vishwamitra threw the Brahmashirsha. This was the most powerful weapon he had. He threw that also. Even that disappeared into that small stick of Vasishta. One old man with a small stick, he undid everything that Vishwamitra had done and practically everything that Vishwamitra claimed himself to be. The lesson that we learn is that the degree of insult is inversely proportional to the size of the entity causing it. Mathematical language. If the thing or the person causing the insult is small, the smaller the person is, the greater the insult is. If a CEO of a company insults you, not a problem. Chaprasi insults you, that's intolerable. CEO insulting is almost like prestige, you know. अच्छा लगता है. थोड़े बड़े लोग गाली देते हैं तो मजा आता है. It almost feels like a praise, encouragement. But one small peon tells the same thing in the same tone and the same to the same person, can't tolerate. Why? The degree of insult is inversely proportional to the size of the entity causing it. Our desire, when it is unfulfilled, the reason our desires get unfulfilled, it's not always somebody else's fault. Many times it is your own mind that causes your desires to remain unfulfilled. Every person in his or her life goes through a phase like this, where one small insult or one small thing, one small incident that happens, you just so much put your energy on it that you just completely forget everything else. Vishwamitra decided something very important today. You know what he decided? He decided that the most important position in the entire planet, the most important role, the most important empowerment that one could have in the entire planet is not missiles, not kingship, not followership, not wealth, not soldiers, but it is becoming a Brahma Rishi. So he said, my life, the purpose of my life is to become a Brahma Rishi. Being a Brahma Rishi, according to Vishwamitra, was more important than being a king. So he decided, I'm going to become a Brahma Rishi. What is the difference between expectation and reality? The bigger the gap between expectation and reality, the bigger the stress. If anybody has problem with stress, this is the reason. Expectation is something, reality is something else. I always tell a story. I love this story. One time there was a Olympic competition among animals. All the animals in the jungle, they were participating in this Olympic competition. And there was one elephant, very enthusiastic. He wanted to win the running race. He participated. There was a cheetah, there was a deer, and there were so many animals. And then the race started, and guess who won? Naturally the cheetah will win, the fastest. The elephant wanted to win. It went into depression. He said, next year I am going to win this race no matter what. And he started weight loss programs. He started jogging 8 hours a day, really working hard. After one whole year of preparation, he participated in the Olympic competition, participated in the race. Guess who won? This is the difference between expectation and reality. If the elephant had to participate in a wrestling competition or in a weightlifting competition, who could defeat him? No one. So most of the times, when you try to imitate somebody else, when you try to imitate somebody else's strength, you don't try to see your own strengths, but rather you try to see your weakness and try to make your weakness into your strength. Then you land in trouble. Vishwamitra, he saw that Brahma Rishi's position is great. एक ब्रह्म ऋषि ने मुझे चकमा दे दिया, मुझे अभी ब्रह्म ऋषि बनना है. History has seen so many people who want to become somebody else or who want to have what somebody else has, thinking that just by having that position, just by having that thing, just by becoming like that person, I will be that person. There was a king named Poundrak. The Bhagavad talks about him. This man, he was obsessed to becoming Krishna. Krishna was living in Dwarka at that point of time. उसको कृष्ण बनना था. उसने कारपेंटर को बुलाया, 2 हाथ चिपकाया इधर, 4 हो गया अभी, शंख चक्र गदा पद्म हो गया 4. And he painted himself blue, put a peacock feather on his head, and he said, I am become Krishna now. And he challenged Krishna for a war. When Krishna saw him sitting on the chariot, he started laughing. He started laughing so much that practically he didn't know how, he forgot to fight only. What do you fight with a joker, right? Imitation is so cheap. Every person, when you try to imitate somebody else, you are insulting the creation of God. When you try to become somebody else, that means you're saying that God has created you as imperfect. That's what imitation is. When you try to appreciate what you are or who you are, rather than trying to imitate somebody else or become somebody else, you'll become more respectable. Vishwamitra, by this point of time, he was inspired to become a Brahma Rishi. So he went to the south to perform austerity and tapasya. And this time he said, I am going to perform austerities to please Lord Brahma. And he started performing tapasya, intense tapasya. After many, many years, Brahmaji appeared in front of him. And he said, what do you want? He said, I want to become Brahma Rishi. Brahmaji said, no, I will make you a Raja Rishi. You are still not qualified to become Brahma Rishi. When Brahmaji said that I declare you to become a Raja Rishi, this man, Vishwamitra, you know what he felt? He felt like Brahmaji had given him a rotten apple. Raja Rishi kisko banna hai? Mujhe nahi banna hai. But he was helpless. He couldn't fight with Brahmaji. So he said, okay, fine, I'll continue. So, a desired qualification must be preceded with the endeavor to prove that you deserve it. Before you desire, first you should deserve. If you want to be the source of light to the world, be ready to burn. So, Vishwamitra, he started performing intense tapasya. We'll allow him to perform tapasya. We'll go a little further to Ayodhya, where there was a king. This was one of the ancestors of Dasharath Maharaj, many, many years back. So, there was a king whose name was Trishanku. He was a king of Ayodhya at that point of time. This man, extremely beautiful, extremely handsome looking, extremely powerful king, extremely wealthy, extremely charismatic. One day, along with being all that, he was extremely eccentric. Hatke. Thoda sa. This man, he loved himself. अपने आप को इतना प्रेम करता था. The I generation started from him. He would look at himself in the mirror for hours and hours and hours. Just loved himself. One day, when he was looking at himself in the mirror, an idea came to him. He said, "This is the most brilliant idea I ever got in my life." He said, he knew the philosophy. He knew, that Deino smeta dehe komaram yovanam jara. He knew that old age will come and death will come and all that. But he wanted to be as beautiful as he was forever. And he knew also that in the heavens there is no death. So he put two and two together and he said, I want to go to the heaven in the same body. मैं एक बार हेवन पहुंच गया तो मरूंगा नहीं और शरीर भी बूढ़ा नहीं होगा, तो ऐसे ही जीता रहूंगा. I can, look at myself as handsome as ever, forever. He had a unique idea of overcoming the laws of nature. So when he got this idea, he went to his teacher. By this time, Vishwamitra Muni was performing his tapasya, and Vashishta had come to Ayodhya and become the Raja Rishi of Ayodhya. He had become like the guru of Ayodhya, because he knew that something interesting is going to happen in Ayodhya later. So he became a guru of that kingdom, and Trishanku, he went to his teacher Vashishta, and he asked Vashishta that, my dear teacher, I have a request. Can you send me in the same body to the heaven? Vashishta started laughing at him. He said, you fool, to go to the heaven, you have to first deserve to go there. You can't just go there like that. And you can't go there with your body. Only when you give up this body, you can go to the heaven in a different body. So, this man, he said, no, मुझे ऐसे ही जाना है. इसी शरीर में जाना है, अब भी जाना है. कुछ भी करो, कितना भी पैसा ले लो, लेकिन भेजो. Doesn't it sound familiar? The mindsets are exactly same, though ages change. So, Vishwamitra was hell-bent on becoming a Brahma Rishi, and Trishanku was heaven-bent. Mindsets are very similar, whether you are a sage or whether you are a king, whether you are whoever you are. So, he went to Vashishta, and Vashishta just didn't, help him at all. He just totally insulted him. He said, you are a fool, just get lost from here. So, this man, in fact, Vashishta told him that you are actually arrogant. You are attached to your body, and you are attached to, what you think is great. You are actually arrogant. And he told him that your attachment to this perishable body is absolutely bogus, absolutely useless. Shouted at him, reprimanded him, chastised him, and told him to get out from there. And then, when Trishanku came away from where Vashishta was, he felt his idea of going to the heaven, the brilliant idea of going to heaven, was melting like ice in front of the anger of Vashishta, which is like the sun. Trishanku, he was looking for a shortcut. Looking for shortcuts is a disease of intolerance and impatience. The hard work of trying to become qualified is replaced by the hard work of trying to find a shortcut. Both the times you have to work hard. But instead of working hard to become qualified, most people work hard to find a shortcut to become qualified. So, there are so many people in this world who are ready to do anything to somehow or the other quicken the process of getting this shortcut. But unless one really goes step by step, he can never really achieve it. There was one man who had 2 pots. This man, he started thinking, what am I going to do with these 2 pots? He said, I'll sell these 2 pots and I'll make some money. I'll make 2 more pots. Tomorrow I'll sell 4 pots. And then next day I'll sell 8 pots. And then soon I'll have a shop of pots. And then soon I'll get married to a very beautiful lady. Then I'll have children, then I'll have a cow, then I'll have so many things. And then one day when my children really trouble me, that day I will take a stick and beat them badly. And then he actually broke the two pots. Everything in the dream. So many people, they dream of achieving things without really getting out to try to achieve them. Trishanku was obsessed. He realized that Vashishta is an old man. These old people are too rigid. उनको समझते नहीं है. You know what young blood wants. They don't understand. Young blood is looking for innovations. So what? Nobody has gone till now. I'll be the first person to go. So, Trishanku, he said, no point in going to Vashishta again. Old man will never understand. Let me go to the sons of Vashishta. They're young, dynamic, enthusiastic. They are there to make a career for themselves. They're there to make a name for themselves. I'll go to them. So he went to the sons of Vashishta and he told them, why did you send me to the heaven? The sons of Vashishta said, what did our father say? So he said, your father said it's impossible. So they said, if our father has said it is impossible, it is actually impossible. Get lost from here. So this man, he started convincing them. He said, see, you are young and trying to make your careers. I am giving you a first break. Just imagine you do this. Something that your father could not do. Just imagine how glorious you will become. Immediately you will become CEO of some organization. Immediately you will get assistantship to some king. The sons of Vashishta, they were so disgusted with this fellow. They were so disgusted that actually human beings, they feel, the mindset of Trishanku, it is believed that every human being has a natural predisposition to outdo his seniors. This is one insecurity in human beings, and that insecurity is pervading in the corporate world. As soon as somebody joins an organization, the senior feels this fellow has joined to only outdo me. That insecurity is so strong. This man, he planted the seed of that insecurity in Vashishta's children. So Vashishta's children, they hated this. They hated this because they had great respect for their senior. They had great respect for their father. Unfortunately, when you respect yourself, when you adore yourself, you blindly worship yourself, you tend to think that I am better than everybody else. And God has sent me only to prove that I am better than others. And you look for opportunities where you can prove you're better to the extent that you're ready to insult anybody who is above you, anybody who is your own teacher, anybody who is your own guru. Trishanku's, Vashishta's children, they were disgusted with Trishanku. They were so disgusted that they cursed him. You know what they cursed him? They cursed him saying, you will lose your beauty. The very thing he was ready to do so much for, they cursed him saying that you will become ugly, you will become so ugly that people will hate you. This man went away to his room. By the next morning, he had contracted leprosy, his nose had melted, his cloth had become so ugly and dirty, and he had become practically like a pauper. His ministers drove him away and sent him to the forest. Pride in education, vanity in personal beauty, intoxication of wealth, and influence over people. These are four chemicals. When combined with the catalyst of disrespect, it leads to the amalgam of arrogance. Trishanku had all of them. He was extremely beautiful, but he had vanity about his beauty. He was extremely wealthy, but he was intoxicated about his wealth. He had influence over people, and that really, it gave him a lot of strength. And he had great pride in his education. All that was combined with disrespect, the catalyst of disrespect. That made this man very, very arrogant. This man, after he was thrown out from his kingdom, by his ministers, after he had lost his beauty and become so ugly, still still his desire didn't go away. He said, Abhi kuch bhi ho, I will go to the heaven in the same body. Even if the body is ugly, no problem. Mujhe aise hi jana hai. So now he started looking for who is that person who will help me. So Trishanku, he started roaming around, and finally he reached the place where Vishwamitra was doing his sacrifice. He was doing his austerities. So Vishwamitra was hell-bent on becoming a Brahma Rishi, and Trishanku was heaven-bent, going to the heavens. Both of them came together now. This is Ramayan. So Trishanku told the entire story, his gata, to Vishwamitra. मेरे साथ क्या क्या अन्याय हुआ मैं बताता हूं आपको. And then he told him his conclusion. Just see what his conclusion was about his own life. What happened with him. You see, the mind can prove to you that you're right. He said that I was just honest about my desire. What is wrong in being honest? Everybody has desire, na? मेरा भी ऐसा इच्छा था. तो गलती क्या है? What is wrong in being honest about your desire? And if I'm honest about my desire, why do people have to become envious of me? So when you offer justification to shield your own weakness, what happens is you actually are harming yourself only. He was arrogant and disrespectful, but rather he was presenting himself as honest and sincere. So he said that now he started using his diplomacy. Vishwamitra told him that you cannot reach the heaven in your same body because it is not scripturally right. Trishanku said, okay, I knew it. If Vashishta can't do it, you also can't do it. He said that and he walked away. Vishwamitra said, hey, wait a minute. Did you say Vashishta can't do it? He said, if Vashishta can't do it, 100% I can do it. Come back. So Trishanku was happy, he got his work done. So basically, he used flattery and Vishwamitra's weakness as a bait to convince Vishwamitra to help him. So Vishwamitra, he told his sons, I don't know how many were there, but he told his sons that I am going to do a yajna, a fire sacrifice, and this yajna is going to be the most unique yajna in the entire creation. So Vishwamitra said to his sons, go and call all the sages in the world for this yajna. And he told him, if any sage doesn't want to come, tell me his name. So these sons went around calling all the sages, and all the sages came. They came because Vishwamitra said, you have to come. So all of them came and sat around, and Vishwamitra was ready to do the sacrifice. The sons came and Vishwamitra asked them that, who said I can't come? So the son said, Vashishta and the 100 sons of Vashishta. Vishwamitra said, how dare they say that? And he cursed the 100 sons of Vashishta to become tribal people in their for next 7 lifetimes. All the sages, they breathed sigh of relief. अच्छा हुआ हम पहुंच गए. So all the sages were happy that they reached over there. The easiest way to get people to cooperate with you is by showing your might. If you show your might, you gain physical presence. Numbers increase. A better way to get people to cooperate with you is to offer a benefit. When you offer a benefit, you gain their intelligence. Ideas increase. But the best way is to influence by your character and vision. You gain their hearts and commitment increases. So Vishwamitra, he motivated people to come to his yajna by showing his might. Sab pahunch gaye. Numbers increased like anything, but nobody's heart was there. So in life, when we force people to cooperate to do what we want them to do, you might find all of them around you. But actually, none of them are around you. Because the heart is just not there. We hear about in our childhood, we talk about this story of two goats, walking on a bridge, log of wood, one goat from this side and one goat from this side. And whenever I tell this story in any corporate organization, they ask me, किसको बेंड करना चाहिए पहले? हमेशा हम क्यों? Why always me? I tell people, the goat that bends, which goat will bend? The one that is more mature will bend. So, in life, if you want really to get people to cooperate with what your desires and plans are, you have to get people's hearts. You have to win people's hearts. And the way to win people's hearts is through your character and through your vision. Vishwamitra began the sacrifice. International yagya. In the olden times, people would go in thousands and thousands to watch yagyas. And there were yagyas going on everywhere, practically. In every gully there was one yagya going on. But some of them were like really important yagyas. 2020 World Cup. Once in a while this used to happen. So this was like the most important yagya of that time. So practically millions of people were there to watch the yagya. And then the yagya was completed. Vishwamitra poured the last oblations. After the last oblations, something was supposed to happen. Nothing happened. People are looking at him and saying, बस क्या? इतना दूर से हमको बुलाया, इतना चिल्ला चिल्ला के गला फाड़ के बोला मैं कुछ करूंगा, कुछ नहीं. They didn't say that, but that's what their looks revealed to Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, he was angry. None of the demigods came to accept offerings. None of the demigods came because the yagya was not sanctioned by the scriptures at all. There is no yagya like this in the scriptures. But Vishwamitra made up one. Naturally, no demigod came. Now, Vishwamitra was in a soup. He could practically see Vashishta laughing. He could see the face of Vashishta. I told you. He could practically see the face of Vashishta. So he said, and he looked at Trishanku and he could see hope in the eyes of Trishanku. Trishanku was thinking, heaven, you showed me so much, and nothing happened. Vishwamitra said, now or never. So he summoned all the strength that he had, all the tapabala, all the strength of tapasya that he had accumulated over years and years. He summoned all that, closed his eyes intensely, and with the ladle in his hand, he rose the ladle in the sky. And as he lifted the ladle, Trishanku started flying. All the sages, they were shocked. Trishanku is flying. No helicopter came, no parachute, nothing. Straight started flying. The sages were really bewildered. Vishwamitra's eyes were closed to rapt attention. And as he was lifting the ladle, Trishanku started flying towards the heaven. The sages were really impressed because they were thinking that Vishwamitra, who is a mortal, has overcome the laws of nature. Trishanku was flying. He was so grateful to Vishwamitra. He said, Vishwamitra has fulfilled my desire. He is somebody who can give my life to. So, Trishanku was taking credit for the effort that Vishwamitra did. Vishwamitra is doing so much, Trishanku is going to enjoy. So, as Trishanku was flying in the air, initially he was ecstatic. Sabko bol raha tha, dekho, main ja raha hu, tata, As he reached a certain height, his head started paining. No helmet, no protection, nothing, going against gravity. His head started splitting. He was in intense trauma. The lesson is that any shortcut, it seems to be a pleasure only in the beginning. Because it gives you a feeling of being ahead of so many people. But each shortcut has its hidden sources of misery. When you reach success through shortcut, there will be a pain in your life which will be too embarrassing to reveal to somebody else. So Trishanku, he was going to the heaven, definitely, but with so much pain that he couldn't really express to anyone because nobody could hear him. He was shouting, I'm going to come back, just forget the whole thing. But Vishwamitra was now obsessed. He had to send him. So as Trishanku started reaching towards the heavens, Indra was in his court enjoying with his people. Somebody came running and told him, there is an ugly duckling coming to our heaven. Indra saw this Trishanku, this ugly looking man coming. He said, how can he come? And then Indra, he took his thunderbolt and waved it. First of all, this fellow was shameless. And more than that, he was unwelcome. But he was barging into the heaven as if, it's his right. So, Indra, he waved his thunderbolt. This man reversed and started falling headwards towards the earth. So now, by this time in the earth, what had happened was that all the sages, they were really appreciating Vishwamitra because he has achieved something that nobody has ever achieved. Yagya was over. Vishwamitra is sent Trishanku to heaven. Trishanku is not there. He is gone. Vishwamitra has achieved some success. They said, Abhi humko kya karna idhar? Chalo. All of them were leaving. Just when they were leaving, suddenly they heard a shriek. This man was falling down from the sky. Vishwamitra opened his eyes and he saw Trishanku was coming down headwards. And all the sages, they were amused. Trishanku started shouting, save me, save me. Vishwamitra, he knew, now it's a question of his reputation. So he took his ladle and shoved it again to the air. This man reversed and started flying towards the heaven. Indra, he put his thunderbolt and sent him back to the... This man was like a shuttlecock going from heaven and earth. Heaven was not Trishanku's personal agenda anymore. But it had become Vishwamitra's acquired agenda. It was not Trishanku's ambition anymore, but it had become Vishwamitra's ambition. If he reaches heaven, then I am successful. So Vishwamitra was so obsessed. So now, it was pleasure in the beginning, but it became painful in the end for Trishanku. Indra and Vishwamitra were fighting, and Trishanku was helpless. The lesson that we learn is that both of them, Indra and Vishwamitra, were absorbed in self-establishment. Indra wanted to prove nobody can come in unless I want. Vishwamitra wanted to prove if I want to send somebody, nobody can stop him. So both of them wanted to establish themselves as authorities. But in the process, they couldn't see the pain of Trishanku. This happens so many times in life. When two powerful people are trying to prove themselves to be better or to be the right person. And then somebody who gets stuck in between, they don't care for that person. They don't really bother about it. They don't even think about that person. Because what they are bothered about is to establish themselves. So, Vishwamitra, after a couple of ups and downs, he realized that Trishanku has to be stably established somewhere. And Indra definitely not going to take him. 3 times, 4 times he went to the heaven and came back. Nothing happened. Immigration officer sent him back. So, Vishwamitra said, if Trishanku is not going to enter into heaven, I will create a new heaven for him. So Vishwamitra put all his tapobal, all the remaining Shakti that he had, all the remaining energy that he had into creating another parallel heaven. And he sent Trishanku to that heaven. A parallel heaven created. Can you imagine what power it requires to create a parallel heaven? There were parallel Indras. There were parallel Agnis, all the demigods were there parallelly. But Trishanku went there, but Vishwamitra, his battery got over. Charging के लिए time नहीं है. shut down होने वाला है system. So he became desperate. He didn't even have a battery pack. लगा के extra charging करने के लिए. He became desperate. First time in his life, he started shouting out the name of Lord Vishnu. He said, Vishnu, save me! Really intensely started shouting out the name of Lord Vishnu. As soon as he started shouting out the name of Lord Vishnu, suddenly his head, which is actually practically splitting, started easing out. The burden started decreasing. And then Lord Vishnu actually spoke up to him. And he told him that, my dear Vishwamitra, you may create, but you cannot maintain. For maintaining anything, you need the mode of goodness. The mode of passion can help you create something. The mode of ignorance can help you destroy something. To maintain something, you need the mode of goodness. And then Lord Vishnu said, because you have tried so much, and because of the kind of effort that you have done, I don't want your heaven to disappear. I will maintain it myself. And because you have chanted my names, I will maintain it myself. But I also want to make sure that Indra, who is also my devotee, his condition is taken care of. So Vishnu, he kind of made a conclusion. He said, from today onwards, the heaven that you created will remain, and Trishanku will remain in that heaven, but he will remain ulta. Because Indra sent him in that direction. So from that day onwards, till now, the Trishanku heaven is still there. It's one of the stars. And there, till now, Trishanku is hanging upside down in his ugly body. It seemed that Trishanku and Vishwamitra have achieved success. But actually, they didn't achieve success. Vishwamitra didn't send Trishanku to the heaven, didn't achieve success in the way it had to be achieved, but he created a parallel model for success. So if you can't achieve something, create a parallel model and call that success. So basically, the world may think that they have succeeded, but internally, both of them know they have failed and they had suffered very badly. So, concluding this entire story, Trishanku, he represents inertia. Inertia prevents one from working hard to achieve one's goals. This is called as the principle of Daivavad. Daivavad means everything will be done by God only. मुझे नहीं कुछ नहीं करना है. मैं आराम से बैठूंगा, भगवान को बोलूंगा, मुझे लिए कर दो, हो जाएगा. This is Daivavad. This is a philosophy that exists in life. Many people believe in this philosophy. God will do everything. I have to do nothing. Vishwamitra Muni, he represents overactiveness. Trying to achieve a goal, though unqualified. He represents Karmavad. Karmavad means work is worship. I am the creator of my own destiny. So many people speak this philosophy saying that whatever I want to do in life, I will achieve it on my own strength. Vishwamitra actually believed in that philosophy. I can achieve everything by my own strength. Vashishta represents balance, harmony. He represents the concept of work hard and then wait for grace. This is the concept of bhakti, where you put your best effort, but don't demand for success, don't demand for result. Wait for grace to descend and wait for God to accept your effort and recognize your effort. So, Vishwamitra by this time, he had failed in the south. And southern direction represents ignorance. So he said, if I failed in the south, let me go to the west. There are many people who blame places, blame situations, blame people for their failures. एग्जाम में फेल क्यों हुए? ये पेन अच्छा नहीं था. एग्जाम में फेल क्यों हुए? ये टीचर ने अच्छा क्वेश्चन पेपर नहीं दिया. So many people, they blame situations, blame people around them, blame things around them for their failures. Vishwamitra, he said, I failed because I did tapasya in the south. बीच में त्रिशंकु आ गया, पता नहीं क्या हो गया, और मैं भ्रमित हो गया, पूरा इग्नोरेंस में चला गया, क्योंकि मैं साउथ में हूं ना. So he said, I will go to west now and I will do tapasya. So now Vishwamitra Muni, he started performing tapasya in the west. Very close to where Vishwamitra was performing tapasya, there was a king whose name was Ambarish, who was performing a yajna. So this Ambarish, this king, he was performing a horse sacrifice. Indra, the king of the heaven, he became very envious of Ambarish. He felt that if Ambarish does this horse sacrifice, he might want to take my position. So Indra came and stole the horse. Yajna was just going to get over. Just when it was getting over, the priests, they found the horse is not there. The priest got wild on Ambarish. He said, what a fool you are. This horse was the most important part of the yajna. You couldn't keep a watch on the horse? Ambarish said, what do I do now? He said, find the horse. So he said, if you don't find the horse, get a human being who will willingly give himself in place of the horse. Finding the horse is tough. But more tougher is getting a human being who will say, मैं आता हूँ, चलो, मार दो मुझे. Ambarish set out to try to find a human being who could allow himself to be sacrificed. So he happened to be coming to the house of a sage whose name was Richika Muni. We saw him yesterday. He was the brother-in-law of Vishwamitra Muni. Somehow, everything is within the family. So Richika Rishi and his wife Kaushiki, they had 3 children. 3 sons. So Ambarish, he went to the sage and his wife and told them, just see, I want to perform a horse sacrifice which is going to be beneficial for the world. So please give me one of your sons. Richika Rishi said, I can't give you my first son. I love him. The mother said, I can't give you my 3rd son. I love him. The middle fellow was looking at both of them. The middle fellow, his name was Sunashepa. Sunashepa means literally tail of a dog. कुत्ते की पूंछ. ऐसा कभी नाम सुना है क्या? किसी का नाम क्या? कुत्ते की पूंछ है मेरा नाम. So the name seemed to be really funny, but the understanding of the name you will understand at the end of the story. I will not tell you now. So Sunashepa, he felt very insulted. He felt left out. He said, nobody loves me. And Ambarish said, मैं हूं ना. But he knew why Ambarish wanted him, why Ambarish loved him. He had a desire also. So Sunashepa, he always felt himself to be useless. Therefore, people around him did not understand his value. Many times, when you cannot find your own value, how do you expect other people around you to value you? So Sunashepa, he was despondent. And he knew, only one person at this point of time wants me. Why he wants me is a different thing. But he wants me, so I'll go with him. So Sunashepa got up, walked with Ambarish. They came out and they started riding on the chariot, going back to where the yajna was going to be conducted. It became afternoon. After a nice meal, Sunashepa told Ambarish, take some rest. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, don't worry. So Ambarish slept. Sunashepa, he became desperate. He wanted to look for some opportunity, how he can save himself. He started running around here and there, trying to find the opportunity. That time, he saw his uncle Vishwamitra performing tapasya. He ran and fell at the feet of his uncle. Here, uncle, save me. Vishwamitra said, now what? Every time something happens. So Vishwamitra asked him, he realizes his nephew, and he said, what can I do for you? So Sunashepa, he explained the whole situation. And Vishwamitra, he said, no problem, don't worry. Sunashepa told something very important to Vishwamitra. He said, my dear uncle, I don't want to die. But at the same time, I want the sacrifice to get completed. I want Ambarish's sacrifice to happen. Tell me what is the solution. So Vishwamitra, he called his sons again. So he called his sons and told him, one of you all take his place and go and perform sacrifice, give up your life. So all the sons, they looked at his father and said, what nonsense is this? हम आपके बेटे हैं, ये तो पराया है, इसकी जगह पे हमको क्यों भेज रहे हो? Vishwamitra got angry on his sons. He said, you fools, you don't understand what is the meaning of the word sacrifice. You are not meant to be sages. And he cursed all his sons. And then he told his Sunashepa, he said, I'll teach you a mantra. And when I'll teach you 2 mantras, he said, just when they are going to sacrifice you, that time you chant these 2 mantras. And then everything will be fine. Sunashepa desperately learned these 2 mantras because his life depended on it. When you know the application of knowledge, the eagerness to learn increases. Many children ask me, हम पढ़ते क्यों हैं? ये कभी यूज होने वाला है क्या? So many children ask me, history, civics, geography, हम कभी यूज करने वाला क्या इसको? So I tell them, you do justice to that, but you also learn something where you know the application of, enthusiasm will be much higher. Sunashepa desperately learnt the 2 mantras and he went, woke up Ambrish, both ho gaya samay uto. So Ambrish was like, seems to be more enthusiastic to perform the sacrifice now. So he took him to the sacrifice, they tied him up, ready to chop off his neck, and this man desperately chanting the mantras. Suddenly, in front of the whole ceremony, the demigods appeared from the fire and they told them, your sacrifice is successful. You don't need to sacrifice Sunashepa, but we give you all the benefits that you will get from the sacrifice. And then, Sunashepa was released. He went happily away. So basically, these 3 people represents 3 different lifestyles. Ambarish represents the life of competition. Competition means Swardatmak Jivan, which means you die for my sake. Sunashepa, he represents life of cooperation, Sahakaratmak Jivan. Both you and I should prosper. He didn't want to die, but he didn't want Ambarish's sacrifice to not prosper also. And Vishwamitra represents the lifestyle of service, seva. Seva means, for you to live, I am ready to die. That's the concept of service. For you to prosper, I am ready to sacrifice everything. That's seva. Seva doesn't mean that I get something by serving you. That's not seva. That's meva. So basically, at this point of time, Sunashepa, he was extremely happy that he's alive. But now he was thinking, where do I go? He didn't want to go home because his mother and father both had rejected him. He said, they don't love me. They love my brothers more than me. And he said, Ambarish, he definitely doesn't love me because he wanted to use me. So the only person who loved me is people like Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra had no connection, no need to help me, but he still helped me. He said, his lifestyle is what I want to do. So he decided to dedicate himself to become a sage, to become a sadhu. And then Sunashepa, eventually, by dedicating his life for a higher cause, for dedicating his life for the sake of serving society, serving others, he eventually became one of the greatest scholars of his times. The word Sunashepa has a very interesting meaning. Life has many lessons to teach you. The 2 lessons that Sunashepa actually learned was that, first lesson is that no one is your well-wisher. His parents abandoned him and Ambarish accepted him, but both had their ulterior motives. The second lesson that he learned is that there is no greater strength than taking shelter of higher powers. He saw the power of mantras. He saw the power of one sage, what he did to him. So he said, if taking shelter of these mantras helped me so much once, what if I take shelter of mantras regularly? How much will it help me? How much will I benefit by it? So from that point onwards, Sunashepa, he decided to pursue higher goals. Life is a school of hard knocks. You learn different valuable things in life by going through experiences. Sunashepa, he had learned the lesson of his life. That's when he learned the meaning of his name. The word Suna means dog, and the word Shepa means tail. There is a dog in the heavenly planets, the dog of Indra, whose name is Devasuno. This dog has a speciality. You know what is the speciality of this dog? The speciality of this dog is that whenever somebody is reading the scriptures, the dog stands next to the fellow who is reading the scriptures. If the person reads the scriptures, one sentence also, and goes ahead, without understanding the meaning of that sentence, without understanding the essence of that sentence, the dog barks. So the dog tells you, don't go ahead without understanding the essence of the scriptures. That dog is called as Devasuno. And Sunashepa means tail of that dog. If you can become the tail of such a dog, then you understand the essence of scriptures. Sunashepa, his name was Sunashepa, which means that he was supposed to understand the essence of all the scriptures. But he never lived by that name. He always thought himself to be useless. He always thought himself to be invaluable, not valuable. But after going through this experience, he realized what his life was meant for. And then eventually he became an exalted sage. By this time, Vishwamitra Muni, he realized he made a mistake again. By giving Sunashepa these mantras, he had totally distracted himself from his path. He has cursed his sons, and he lost his tapasya. All the credit of his tapasya was gone. Now, Vishwamitra, he decided to change his direction again. He said, south didn't work, west didn't work, let us go to the east. He went to the east and started meditating. And he meditated for a long period of time. And Indra became insecure now. Indra keeps becoming insecure half the time. So Indra, he became insecure, and he sent one heavenly damsel whose name was Menaka to disturb Vishwamitra. So Menaka came, extremely beautiful Apsara. She started swimming in the lake, singing film songs, and tinkling her ankle bells. So Vishwamitra, he just out of curiosity opened his eyes, and 10 years passed. Completely forgot what he was meant to do. Absorbed in, living a life of enjoyment with Menaka. And after 10 years, suddenly he got up. He asked her, when did you come? She said, 10 years back. He said, 10 years! He wanted to curse her, but he said, what's the point in cursing? He just got disgusted and left from that place. The lesson that we learn is that the curious mind convinces you to blindly follow lusty proposals, promising joys, which are actually beautiful packages of sorrow. Temptations are nothing but the curiosity of the mind. Actually, it doesn't exist. But the temptation is so strong, you feel that if I get it, I will be happy. One time, this is a very curious way in which woodcutters catch monkeys. You know what they do? What they do is that there was one woodcutter, he trapped a monkey like this. He cut a piece of log of wood half. It was not completely open. And he put a log in it, in between. Now when the monkey saw this log, he said, "Kuch to hoga andar." And he started pulling out the log. And he pulled it so badly, the log came out and his hand got stuck. And he lost his life. So many times, temptations are like this. You feel like doing it, but as soon as you do it, you repent for your life. So, when when temptations come in our life, how do you handle temptations? The way to handle temptations is by focusing on the goal and not thinking about instant pleasure. The moment you say, I want it now, quick solution, quick enjoyment, quick joy, all those quick things end up in frustration later. When you focus on the goal, it takes a long time, but it takes consistent effort to be able to achieve your goal. Now Vishwamitra, was a learned person. He had a lot of experiences from different ways of failing. Now he said, I want to succeed. He went to the north and he started performing tapasya. After a long period of time, Brahmaji appeared in front of him. Brahmaji, he said, so am I ready to be a Brahma Rishi? Brahmaji said, no, aur bhi karna hai. So this man, he started performing more tapasya. And again Indra became insecure. Indra, he told Ramba, he told her, why don't you go down and disturb him? Ramba said, impossible. He already had one experience. Now he's going to really get angry on me. Indra said, don't worry, we are there behind you. You go ahead. And Indra became a cuckoo. And he called Kamadev. And he told Kamadev to create a beautiful atmosphere. So, creating atmosphere is very important to be able to succumb to temptations. So, if anybody thinks that he has full control over what he wants to do, the only reason the person has control over what he wants to do is because he's in the right atmosphere, the right environment. Even if you are a Vishwamitra who has performed thousands of years of tapasya till now, but you end up in the wrong atmosphere, you will fall to temptations. Therefore, the easiest thing we can do is not go to the wrong atmosphere. If you say, उधर जाके देखते क्या होता है, कुछ नहीं होगा मेरे साथ, जाके देखो. So Indra, he sent Ramba, and Ramba came. She was trying to dance, trying to create a nice atmosphere. Vishwamitra, before he opened his eyes, he already practiced. Jal mein faso mat. And now he opened his eyes with anger. He said, Acha, you have come to destroy me, I will destroy you. And he cursed her to become a stone. Indra and Kamadev ran away. They forgot their promises, basically. And then, Rambha became a stone, and Vishwamitra said, we will come back from a stone only when a Brahma Rishi comes. He wanted to become a Brahma Rishi, basically. Now, Vishwamitra realized that he had made another mistake. Before he had fallen prey to lust, now he had fallen prey to anger. Any exhibition of anger is preceded by self-destruction. So, the vessel that contains poison, the vessel becomes equally poisonous. Somebody stores poison in a bottle. उसको धो के उसमें पानी पिएंगे क्या? Washed, na? No. The vessel that contains poison becomes poisonous. So anger is like poison. If you hold anger in your body becomes poisonous. There was a mother who was feeding her baby extreme anger. The milk got toxic and the baby actually died. So anger can create toxic elements within your body, and that toxic is not going to affect somebody else. It's going to affect you before you blast on somebody else. Therefore, you always find people who are angry, they're always sad about being angry. Vishwamitra, now he decided enough is enough. No more errors. He started continuing his tapasya intensely now. And he didn't open his eyes. Whatever happened, hailstorms, change of seasons, thousands and thousands of years Vishwamitra was performing tapasya. Finally, Brahmaji came. Brahmaji said, you are a Brahma Rishi. Vishwamitra, he said, Aisani. So Ramaji was thinking, what do you mean by that? I said you are a Brahma Rishi. He said, no, I want Vashishta to come here and tell I am a Brahma Rishi. Brahmaji said, okay, fine. He called Vashishta. Vashishta came over there and he told Vishwamitra, a lot of humility and a lot of respect. He said, you are a Brahma Rishi. I recognize you as a Brahma Rishi. And then what Vishwamitra did really surprised everyone. Vishwamitra, now he was a Brahma Rishi, on the same level as Vashishta. He fell at the feet of Vashishta, started worshipping him, bathing his feet, really submitting himself in humility to Vashishta. Why? The reason is because he realized how much effort it takes to become a Brahma Rishi, which Vashishta already was. He realized that Vashishta is not an ordinary person. He realized that Vashishta had already overcome all those anarthas, all those shortcomings that he had for so many years. And when he realized that, he realized, I made the biggest mistake of my life by criticizing, by hurting, by trying to fight and compete with Vashishta. Vishwamitra, at this point of time, he becomes a Brahma Rishi. Satananda, he ends the story of Vishwamitra by telling Ram and Lakshman, now this man, Vishwamitra, is the greatest of the Brahma Rishis, the greatest sage that ever lived. And Ram and Lakshman are extremely happy. Vishwamitra, Ram and Lakshman, it was evening by that time, they leave the court of Janak and they come to the outer part of Mithila. They are taking rest. While Ram and Lakshman are sleeping, Vishwamitra is contemplating. Because the story has been replayed in his mind after a long time. He starts contemplating, he starts thinking about his own life. He starts thinking that finally, after such a long time, I have got to this level. During the time when Vishwamitra was going through those phases of trying to compete and become Brahma Rishi, he went through one phase in his life that was like a hidden door for Vishwamitra. But that point of time, he had no time to stop and look into the hidden door because he was running. He was running at such a pace to become a Brahma Rishi. He said, now is the time to re-look through that door. He started thinking, why did Vashishta, who had no desire for position, no desire for fame, no desire for disciples, start staying in Ayodhya, start staying in an opulent kingdom, became a guru of a king? Vashishta never does anything just like that. He said, there must be a secret in Ayodhya because of which Vashishta started staying there. And he also, during that phase when he was going through so many things, there was a Trishanku phase when he was totally helpless. His head was splitting. At that one point of time, he chanted the name of Lord Vishnu. He saw the door open, but he had no time to run through that door because he had other things to do. He said, now is the time to go through that door again. Actually find out whether that door is the door to success. Therefore, he came all the way to Vashishta, all the way to Ayodhya, because after he spoke to so many of the sadhus, he realized the only reason Vashishta is there in Ayodhya is because Lord Ram is going to take birth there. The same Lord Vishnu who had saved him is going to take birth in Ayodhya. The same Lord Vishnu who had appeared to Vishwamitra as an open door is there in Ayodhya. Vishwamitra said, now I want to enter through that door. Therefore, he went all the way to Ayodhya, and as he got Ram, just imagine Dasharath Maharaj, he went all the way to Ayodhya thinking that he'll surrender his life to Ram. Dasharath Maharaj is saying, I can't send him. Therefore, he got angry. Therefore, he got violent. Therefore, he was so furious. Then finally, when Dasharath Maharaj sent Ram with him, at every stop, during that travel of Ram and Lakshman, Vishwamitra was surrendering everything that he had, everything that was a part of his ego. He was surrendering his, weapons, he was surrendering his life, he was surrendering practically every aspect. And by the time he became a Brahmarishi, he had already given up all the anarthas. And now he surrendered all his, whatever belongings he had to Lord Ram. At this point of time in Vishwamitra's life, he had achieved his perfection. And next day, he was going to marry Sita and Ram. That was the end of his journey. From that time on, he goes to the north, to the Himalayas, never really comes back. In life, all of us are like Vishwamitra, pursuing so many goals, so many short-term goals. All of us want to become Brahmarishi to whatever little extent we want to. Vishwamitra at least knew what a Brahmarishi was. We don't know what is that Brahmarishi for us. We don't know what it means to achieve that tagline. And most of us, just like Vishwamitra competes with Vashishta, thinking that this is what I want to become, most of us think success means I want to become like this person. And all our life goes in just running, living life based on the clock. And that is when we realize that life gives many hidden doors which open up and show an easier path, which show the better path. But most of the time we are so busy running that we have no time to explore that door. That is a time when stories like Vishwamitra help us to stop and explore not just life through a clock, but life through a compass. Compass means direction. Compass means understanding which direction success lies. Therefore, Vishwamitra's conclusion of his whole journey was that success is when one not just pursues short-term goals, but also pursues long-term goals, which are satisfying. So Vishwamitra at this point of time, he takes shelter of Lord Ram and he perfects his life. Balakanda, which is the first kand of the Ramayan, ends practically with Vishwamitra going to the spiritual world, going to the north towards the Himalayas. The Bala, the child, matures into an adult. The child in devotion matures into an adult in devotion. That's what the entire Balakanda is. Just to summarize everything I spoke today, we spoke about the concept of kingly desires, the concept of use and throw. Vashishta had the cow whom he respected, but Vishwamitra treated the cow as a commodity which he wanted to buy. Then we saw the fight between Vashishta and Vishwamitra and how Vishwamitra is ready to drag the cow into his life. This talks about facades, how when temptations come in one's life, one's facade falls apart. Then we spoke about Shabala turning back and fighting against Vishwamitra. We spoke about how bad leaders can be dealt with. Then we spoke about the defeated king. When Vishwamitra gets defeated, we spoke about the concept of helplessness. Then we spoke about Vishwamitra getting angry at Vashishta. And we spoke about how if one focuses on insult, and the smaller the degree of insult, the greater the intensity that we feel it. And we spoke about the story of Trishanku. We spoke about the concept of shortcuts, how he wanted to achieve big thing through a shortcut. Then we spoke about the obsession of Trishanku, and we discussed how arrogance due to wealth, intoxication of pride, education, beauty can lead to arrogance. And then we spoke about how Vishwamitra, he's called all the sages to forcibly cooperate. Spoke about different types of cooperation. And then we spoke about the story of the dog-tailed man, Sunashepa. And we saw how Sunashepa learned from the school of hard knocks about the purpose of life, different lifestyles. Then we spoke about the concept of happiness, the story of Menaka, how temptations to be dealt with. Then we spoke about the story of Rambha and the concept of how anger is really dangerous. And then finally we spoke about Vishwamitra's diary, how one should not live life based on the clock, but based on the compass. Now, I have a surprise for all of you all. No, this is a better surprise. The surprise is that I'm sure all of you all loved the story of the Ramayan and the lessons that associated with it. I want to show you all the cover of the second book, which has not yet come. The cover page just came to me yesterday and I loved it. So I thought I'll just show it to you all, just to give you all a glimpse of what's coming. This cover page is much, much better than the first cover. The name of the second book is going to be Shattered Dreams. This is the Ayodhya Kand. You can have a look at it. I don't know if you can see it properly. To know what it is, read the second book. I am actually in the process of writing this particular chapter, which is the 7th chapter of the book actually. So it's very coincidental that the cover page came exactly when I am writing the second chapter. I'm personally very grateful to all of you all for having come practically all the 3 days, full enthusiasm, almost exactly on time, and for your patience and listening. If all that we spoke in the last 3 days has been really beneficial to you all and helpful to you all, that's our greatest pleasure and honor. We have some feedback forms to give all of you all. I don't know if you already received them. We would be happy if you would like to enthusiastically share your feedback and also your contact details so that we can keep in touch. We have decided that we want to form a small book club of all those people who are interested in Ramayan, the game of life, and would like to stay in touch with us. We will send regular email updates about the different things that I am writing even before they get published. And we also will send articles based on the book which you can use, which you can circulate it to people, and which also will be sources of inspiration for all of you all. And we are also actively, enthusiastically, available on Facebook, which seems to be the place where everybody is sitting. Though I really don't know how to use it, but somehow we are trying. And we also spoke about yesterday about if you all feel that this message of the Ramayan should reach to more and more people, and you could assist us in any way, you are most welcome to. You can be a part of our team. We have a small team of enthusiastic people who are trying to help. Because what I have seen in my travel, especially all over India, is that people are simple, people are sincere, but people are misdirected. It's not that people don't want to take up spiritual life, but they don't know why to take up spiritual life. And they just need the right understanding and the right reason to do it. And I find that through a story, this is the best way of really touching people's hearts. And nothing like the Ramayan, because this is a book that has for centuries touched people's lives. And we just package it in the right way, put it in the right format, and I'm sure people will be inspired. So I'm very grateful to all of you all for coming here, especially thankful to Radhika Vallabh for really taking a lot of his valuable time to organize this whole seminar for the last 3 days, and also the team who was helping in serving prasad and taking care of the books. So if there is any other way we can help to serve all of you all, we'll be most happy. Hare Krishna. Radhika Vallabh.